Okay, another show. We are on a roll here. This is our second show for the day. Uh, we talked about the Latino votes, but in general, we need to know what has been going on with the election. Who is going to be our president for the next 4 years? And obviously, Biden won the election. Before the election, we talked about the scenario of not having the election and who's going to be at the helm in January, comes in January 20th. And Trump played games and using the pandemic and violence and all this to threaten an emergency in martial law and not going to have election and cannot accept ballots in the mail and all of that. All this gone and all of this, everything went fine and smooth and smoother than any election I've seen. And millions of 90 million people sent their ballots through the mail, no problem. The votes were Biden, and Trump lost by, I know, slim margin. But when you look at it, as this article at The Nation said, Trump lost a huge historical election, and Biden won the highest of any president against a sitting president, 50, more than 50%, almost 51%. That's more than Reagan, the Ayatollah of the conservative movement against Carter in the 80s. He got only 50%, 0.7. Biden 50.8, and we're not done yet. A lot of county and area is still working on counting, and most of those votes are going to Biden. So he got 8 million voter more than Trump, and he got more voters than Clinton, and he got more voters, and the guy is not as a lot of people say. I know it wasn't an inspiring election, didn't inspire a lot of people on the left, but still, one in states that usually goes to the Republican. This is a huge shift in American politics, and that's why the Republican and Trump, you have a racist, alleged rapist, incompetent of handling COVID, more than 200, almost 250,000 dead, millions are infected. Economy is shamble, has no policy whatsoever, politicizing science and health, and the guy lost his mind. So I think the main purpose of this show and everything else we need to do is we shouldn't turn Trump to El-Sisi of the United States and how he handled the first free election in Egypt, demonizing the oppositions and taken over, and that's what happened. We're going to talk to David Schultz very shortly, and he's going to shed some lights on what's going on and what are the scenario of Trump kind of hold his ground, and he's not going to leave the White House. He's going to stand on a sinking ship with some of his thugs, cronies, Giuliani, and the majority senators, Congress. I mean, those idiots, they come and made racism great again. They say the most horrible things and they get away with it. So so stick with us, and David will be with us.
There we go.
Hey, how are you? Hey,
I'm doing well. How about you today?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, every day is a different level of anxiety and different level of misery, we are dealing with. So it's not easy. It's not easy. On the top of that, I know we've been talking even before the election on some of the scenarios if the election ever going to take place, and you spelled out for us the 25th Amendment. I think we heard about that amendment more than we really should. Everybody
Right.
knows the 25th Amendment. How many amendments we have? What,
We
27?
got 27.
Okay. So the Constitution wasn't perfect, right?
Still isn't.
Okay. So any amendments addresses what's going on now? You have a sitting president that in denying the new reality and all the evidence around him that he lost. Even some of reported he lost big, even more than 2016,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even Biden won more even than Reagan, their Ayatollah.
Well, you can't really pass laws against stupidity, and you can't pass laws against denial. And that's what's really going on here, is that the president is just in denial regarding what's going on. And he's been trying to insist for weeks that, well, actually, this has been his career. He's argued back even in 2016 that the election is full of fraud and corruption. And that's sort of been his standard argument. And it's the same thing here. Before the election, he argued that um, absentee voting, voting by mail was fraudulent and corrupt. Why? Well, because probably he was going to lose when that kind of voting came in, and he did. So there's nothing new here in terms of his argument about the election. And I don't think anybody should be surprised by the fact that he is fighting this tooth and nail. That he's got an enormous ego. He has really kind of a denial complex here. And I think, and people haven't been talking about this too much, is that once he's no longer president, he's liable to federal indictment. And if he's federally indicted, he's not going to get the protection that he has now as being a sitting president. So I think there's a lot of stakes here for him from here fighting the election. On top of which, I think at the end of the day, this is just playing to his base.
It's not just about Trump. You're talking about the leader of the Republican Party
Yeah,
are standing on a sinking ship, and they say very insidious, inflammatory things. You have Secretary of State who say we're going to have a smooth second term, and you have this guy saying that they were asking him why, a Republican senator, why did you call Biden? Congratulations. He said, no, what for? So it's not just about Trump. So what is going on with the Republican Party? Is this their
sure.
last hold on common sense and sanity?
Sure. I think a couple of things are going on here. I did a piece recently and I talked about the fact that there's Trump and there's the Trumpistas. And we have to remember that Trump is in some sense the figurehead for a larger movement that's out there. A movement that seems to have 70 million people in it. And it's a movement that includes white supremacists, among other people. And I think what's happened is that the Republican Party is finally facing its existential crisis. That after 2012, the Republican Party said, well, listen, we can't keep winning as the party that doesn't reach out to women and people of color. And then guess what? It did. It did win again in 2016, where Trump basically ran as, well, even then he ran as a white supremacist candidate effectively. And the Republican Party said, well, gosh, that's a pretty good formula. Let's basically become beholden to vaccine deniers, white supremacists, I don't know, to evangelicals. And they were hoping that was going to be enough to give them a victory. And Trump losing now puts them at a crisis. What do? They really have alienated themselves and pushed them to a point where they have nowhere else to go. And so I think this is what's going on here. It's the takeover of the party by the Trumpistas. And I think they're in a position where McConnell has nowhere else to go. A lot of the other party has nowhere else to go. And so their survival is based upon a movement of which Donald Trump was the figurehead.
Uh, this is happening in Republican Party since the Tea Party, and why isn't there a movement there for Bidenist? It seems like
The Biden, I can't even say this, the
yeah,
Bidenist, something like that. That's a hard word to get out there. The fact is, there is no movement for Joe Biden. Uh, what defines Joe Biden is what? Opposition to Donald Trump. There is 75 million people out there who hated Donald Trump. Uh, Maybe some actually did like Joe Biden, but at the end of the day, Biden's more a product of resistance than he is a product of an affirmative party. And that's a problem for the Democrats, because going into 2021, when they're going to be controlling the House and the presidency, even beyond the fact that they face divided government, they face a divided party. It's not clear what the Democrats really stand for. And unlike, let us say, a parliamentary system where you would have party discipline, you would have more cohesion in terms of ideologically holding the party together. The Democratic Party is sort of splintered in lots of directions. You've got sort of the AOC wing, the Bernie Sanders people there. You've got sort of the centrists. You have, I'm going to say, the centrist moderates, including our fine Senator Amy Klobuchar. It's all over the place. But a lot of it is
the
also
squad.
the squad. Yeah, I was going to say or the Democrats just have a very fractured coalition. I was going to say a fractured majority, but I'm not sure if they really have a majority. They have lots of clumps of anti-Trumpistas, but they don't have, I think, a majority of pro-Biden-esque people.
People expected that Trump Biden, if he's gonna pull this off, he has to come. He have to be the FDR of modern time here and come up with major New Deal and Green New Deal and major programs. You're facing pandemic, you're facing economic meltdown. But when you look at his transitional team, they are corporate and lawyers, and Sanders and his group and the left is left out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. None of this surprises me. Remember, Biden has always been a centrist, maybe centrist right. He served in the Obama administration, and contrary to, as the vice president, of course, and contrary to what lots of Democrats think, Obama was a neoliberal. Obama was no liberal at the end of the day. Remember, when Obama takes over the presidency from George Bush, they basically continue what? The massive bank bailout. At no point was it seriously considered that what Obama was going to say, well, heck, let's let the banks fail or nationalize the banks and let's bail out the homeowners instead. And so Biden's going to continue in that direction. He's going to go with what was announced earlier this week is what? The Washington insiders. He's going to go with the people who have been there before, and maybe just having adults in competency is enough, but it's not going to be a policy agenda coming from the left. To a large extent, Biden's embracing of the Democratic platform was a matter of convenience to overcome the division that Clinton and Sanders had 4 years ago, where Clinton just refused to go along with Sanders stuff. And this time, Biden's kind of like, sure, it's okay, bring it on. But I'm not sure his heart is really in pushing in that direction.
Can he get that? Can he get away with it this time? It seems like it was happening in the last few months was the killing of George Floyd and Black Lives Movement, and people very angry and very, very, disfranchised of the Democratic Party, and a lot of them voted, as you said, because they disagree with Trump. But I'm not sure he's going to get any support this time and can get away with it if he can play that compromising centrist. He can work with the Republican and all that thing that all his career has been his brand. This time is going to be different.
Yeah, the one thing that he has going for him right now is, guess what? The Republicans are likely to hold the Senate. Now, I know there's a special election for 2 seats in Georgia coming up in January, odds are that even if the Democrats win both, it goes 50-50. There's not much of a majority there. Republicans still have the filibuster. And I say that if the Democrats had straight out control in 2 years, what the left could say is, listen, we gave you 2 years, you didn't do anything. Now he's got this great argument he can use with the left and say, listen, I really want to go to the left, but I can't. I
Mm.
don't have the majority. I didn't have a margin of victory here that allowed me to do that. It really insulates him. I mean, think about it. He's in a worse position than Obama was. Remember, in Obama, his first 2 years or his first year, he had the House and he had 60 votes in the Senate. He had a veto-proof majority in the Senate, and he squandered it away. And he could have done a variety of things that made structural differences and didn't. Here, Biden's got a ready-built excuse against the left, and he also has a ready excuse against even others who criticize him and say, well, why didn't you get all this done? He could say, those damn Republicans, they prevented it. Come out in 22 and vote for Democrats, and let's create the majority that we need to get anything done. So I think he gets a little insulation. Not that he should, but he gets insulation from the left.
Uh, I'm not sure the left will buy this time because
Yeah,
he has still has executive orders.
that's
He
right.
still have other power that he can use, and
Sure.
it's gonna remain to be seen what he's gonna do. Also, he's facing pandemics. Uh, what are the legal ramification option if he really? I'm not sure this is gonna happen. I think Trump is gonna just suddenly disappear and go to Saudi Arabia or something. But if he really, I mean, this guy is crazy, and I think he's a reality television. Uh, what if he just sat there and didn't want to leave? What
Okay.
are the
So
scenarios?
okay, so let's say he nails plywood to the windows of the White House and
Yeah.
to the front door and sits there with a shotgun and says, "Come and get me." Okay, what can he do? All right. Well, a couple of things I think. One of them is, of course, his according to our Constitution, his term expires at noon on January 20th, 2021. And I mention that because he's private citizen at that point. And at that point, there's not a lot he can do. I mean, do
I
I
see.
have this image of the FBI or the military acting like the sheriff and evicting him with an eviction notice? Possibly, I don't know. But I mention this because he doesn't have a lot of authority at that point. And leading up to it, and this is actually a really interesting discussion here, is that one of the things that has really been, I think, typical of the United States is the fact that the military has remained under civilian control and has been apolitical. Some countries of the world, we know, of course, that the military takes a very active political role, and they second guess the civilian government. My guess is here is that the military, even while he's still in office, is not going to sort of encircle the White House. The joke I was telling somebody the other day, given all the things that Trump has said about John McCain, military people, generals, and everything, I'm less worried about the military keeping him in office and more about the fact that on January 20th they may escort him out of office.
Yeah, yeah,
They,
exactly.
I
Yeah,
mean, they can't wait to see him go. So, but I'm serious, by the way. I
yeah.
mean, because you know yourself, of course, from other parts of the world, that civilian governments that tick off the military pay a price. And I think here, even though he's rewarded the military with lots of toys through the budget, at the end of the day, he really has ticked off the military in ways that they owe him nothing.
Well, I mean, talking to somebody coming from Egypt or the military, just drag the first elected civilian president,
I know.
kidnap him and put him away. We don't even know where he is until he dies.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm afraid, we're gonna turn Trump and people around him, turn him to Al-Sisi. be kind of doubting everything, doubting the result, doubting the media, doubting, gutting the truth out of our
Yes.
culture, our reality.
I think so. I think he loses as a civilian since he loses, quite a bit of authority that he had. I suspect he even loses um, his microphone. I think one of the most interesting stories in the last 2 weeks is how Fox National News seems to be abandoning him. And one of my students was saying, well, why would Fox walk away from him? Why, and I said, because what? He's damaged goods to them. He's on the way out. There's no point in embracing him anymore. And plus, I said, think about how brilliant this is. For all the Democrats and liberals who criticize Fox News of being biased, if they come out and say, hey, but we're the first to say that Trump has lost, what do you think about that? This is smart business. But anyhow, the point that I'm getting at is that I don't think Trump, unlike 4 years ago, where he generated enormous profits for the corporate media, I don't think he's generating those same profits as he did before. And therefore, even with Fox, he becomes expendable. I mean, who's gonna hire him? He's certainly not going to go back to The Apprentice. I think it was The Apprentice. That was his show he had for years.
Yeah.
What show hires him as a commentator at this point?
Well, he'll start his own network. The
Oh,
guy,
also, so instead of having Oprah, was it Oprah's Winfrey? What was
yeah,
it called? OWN or whatever, like the Oprah
yeah,
Winfrey Network.
yeah,
He'll have
yeah,
Don's own network.
yeah. We'll have a
Okay.
few thousand people watch him. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the guy, as you said, is damaged goods, and I think once he falls, I mean, we have an Arab proverb: once the cow falls, a lot of knives. You find a lot of knives coming out.
That's
Uh,
right.
so, well, thanks so much, David. Always pleasure, always insightful and enlightening to talk to you. And hopefully that nightmare will be over. I think. We need to focus on the real problem, structural problem in this country: the
I
pandemic,
know
the
we do.
economy, racism, and then now we are becoming like Rome when it was burning and everybody was, talking about counting vote and fraud, and the country is burning, health,
Right.
economy, and politically. So
Right. Right. Right.
let's hope.
And that's the danger right now is the fact that with what 2 months to go, Trump has largely walked away from the presidency, but he's still there. And the problems of the pandemic and the economy he doesn't care about, which is sort of like my last point here. What Biden is doing, which is fascinating. Now, remember, the new Congress gets sworn in January 3rd. He doesn't get sworn in until January 20th. He's already talking about saying that he wants to negotiate with new Congress after January 3rd, so he's up and running on the 20th. He's essentially creating what? A shadow government at this point, which I think is really fascinating to think about.
You talk about Biden.
Biden, yeah, correct.
Interesting. That's unheard of in this country.
Yeah, that never happens, but
Yeah.
but he's essentially doing that at this point. Is that there's a power vacuum there, and Biden's filling it.
I wonder. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, let's hopefully this is gonna 2020 is gonna go without more surprises. I mean, today is, of all things, it's Friday the 13th, as if
Oof.
we need more scary stuff. So
That's right.
I mean, it cannot get any worse. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the day. Stay healthy and stay home.
I will. See you later. Be
See
good.
you. Thank you. I will try.